This video is brought to you by Global Men's Wellness, your 24/7 AI health expert. No copays, waiting rooms, or awkward conversations. Just real answers whenever you need them. Visit globalmenswellness.com to try it free and get your own on-demand concierge-level wellness expert today.
Welcome back to the 21st Century Man, and thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Great to be here.
So today, we're really zeroing in on Chapter 69. The title is Find Yourself a Partner Who Can Be Your Best Friend.
Yeah, it's a really potent idea.
It really is. It's digging deeper than just, romance or having things in common. It's about that core connection where your partner genuinely feels like your best friend, your rock.
Exactly.
So our mission today is basically to unpack the insights from this chapter. See how we can actually cultivate that deep feeling, that sense of coming home in our relationships. So think about this for a second. What if the real key, the secret sauce to your relationship that lasts and is genuinely fulfilling, isn't just that initial spark or a checklist of shared hobbies?
Right.
What if it's something like deeper, a fundamental alignment of who you both are personality-wise that creates this undeniable peace, that feeling of, okay, I'm home.
That feeling you're describing, that sense of peace, of belonging, that's precisely what Chapter 69 gets into. It introduces this really powerful and honestly often overlooked idea, temperament theory.
Temperament theory. Okay.
Yeah, and look, this isn't some new trendy thing. As we'll see, it's got really deep historical roots. We're talking ancient Greece kind of roots.
Wow.
But it's still incredibly relevant today. It's like a psychological blueprint almost. Helps you understand yourself, sure, but also what makes other people tick, why certain relationship dynamics play out the way they do, gives you much more clarity.
That sounds incredibly useful. And before we really dive in, I just have to say the whole book, The 21st Century Man, it's just packed with practical wisdom, real actionable stuff.
It really is well put together.
And Chapter 69 is a perfect example. It's clear, concise, and the insights, they can genuinely shift how you look at relationships. It's also worth mentioning Nancy Faust. She's got an MSW and MPH. She was a medical writer for this chapter.
Right, which speaks to the quality and the depths here.
Exactly. So if anything we talk about today really resonates with you, I seriously encourage you, grab the full book. It gives you the whole picture, a much more comprehensive understanding than we can cover just here. It really helps you integrate these ideas.
Definitely worth the read.
Okay, so let's kick things off by looking at the relational landscape, because let's face it, relationships are complicated.
Oh, absolutely.
They're messy, they're a journey, right? And finding someone who's truly compatible, that often takes way more than just, that initial attraction. There are pitfalls, complexities. It's a learning process.
It really is. And the chapter actually starts with this great story, this anecdote about a guy named Robbie. It perfectly illustrates these challenges.
Robbie. Yep.
Yeah. So Robbie had just been through a pretty tough divorce, a difficult time. And initially, he'd been super attracted to his ex-wife, Amber, like magnetically drawn to her spontaneity, her love for adventure. You know how that initial thrill can be?
Oh, yeah, totally intoxicating. Especially if you're maybe a bit more...
Grounded.
Yeah, grounded.
Exactly. But, as time went on, that very spontaneity that drew him, it started to wear on him. The chapter says Robbie found he had less and less tolerance for what he started seeing as Amber's creative lifestyle.
Creative lifestyle. That's a nice way of putting it.
Right. Her sort of casual approach to things, what he saw as irresponsibility, her frequent trips. It all became, the chapter says, inconvenient, especially with his own career really taking off, needing that focus. Robbie's described as fundamentally grounded, practical, very hardworking. Structure was his thing.
Which is funny because that structure was exactly what Amber liked about him at first, wasn't it?
That's the irony.
The chapter says his love of order, his routine, it was like a haven for her initially.
Yeah.
A safe harbor from her own maybe chaotic energy.
Exactly. But it shows that classic relationship dynamic, doesn't it? What starts as appealing stability can over time start to feel, boring, humdrum, even suffocating.
Yeah, the old paradox. The things that attract you can end up being the things that drive you nuts.
Precisely. And, they did try. They went to marriage counseling.
Yeah.
Which is a big step, a brave step.
Definitely.
But even with that professional help, it just became crystal clear that bridging their differences, their really fundamental differences in how they approach life, it was going to take more time and emotional energy than either of them had.
Wow.
Yeah, so it wasn't about lack of effort necessarily. It was just recognizing this huge temperamental gap. The chapter notes that Amber eventually found someone else whose personality clicked better with hers, and she moved on.
And the separation itself.
Well, fortunately, the chapter points out they didn't have kids, which made the whole separation, the divorce, significantly cleaner, less brutal than it often is when kids are involved. So it was maybe a bit less messy.
Okay, so there's Robbie, left picking up the pieces.
Yeah.
How does he start healing? What happens next for him?
Well, the chapter details how he really focused. He threw himself into his work, that structure he craved, found purpose there, and he hit the gym hard every night on his way home.
Like discipline, routine.
Exactly. Those routines helped him start the emotional healing process. And then about 14 months later, he's at a conference, a work thing, fitting for him, and he bumps into an old friend.
Serendipity.
Totally.
Yeah.
And the chapter says they just hit it off immediately, and while they're talking, it clicks for him. He has this realization, this could be the one?
Just like that?
Pretty much. The connection felt that strong, that immediate. He suggested coffee. And get this, the chapter adds this crucial detail. He figured out her temperament. Bingo. A match across the board.
Bingo. That's it, isn't it? That's the core message right there.
Absolutely.
The chapter really emphasizes this feeling Robbie had with this new partner. It says, being with her felt like coming home. That phrase.
Yeah.
It's so powerful.
It really resonates.
It speaks to that deep sense of peace, just belonging. Even she wasn't, as wildly exciting as Amber had been. He felt this deep sense of peace, a rightness to the relationship.
That peace, that rightness, that coming home feeling, that's the absolute heart of it. It's what so many of us are looking for, maybe without even realizing it. Not just excitement, but deep, harmonious compatibility.
And Robbie's story just sets it up perfectly, shows the problem so clearly. How do we get past that initial, maybe misleading attraction? How do we avoid those draining conflicts over fundamental stuff and actually build a partnership that feels peaceful, that feels right, like Robbie found?
Exactly. How do we find someone whose basic operating system, aligns with or complements ours in a way that feels good long-term?
Which leads us perfectly into temperament theory itself. The chapter calls it an ephemeral tool for gaining a sense of the people around you and what makes them tick. It's like a practical lens offering new clarity.
It really is. And what's wild is the history. The version of the chapter is modern, practical, but the core ideas, they go way, way back. They're based on the work of Carl Jung, the psychologist. His theories on psychological types are huge.
Right. I've heard of his work.
But even Jung was building on older ideas. The whole concept of 4 basic personality types, it actually goes back to the Greeks.
No way. The Greeks? Like who?
Like Hippocrates, Plato, Aristotle, foundational thinkers. They were wrestling with these same kinds of questions thousands of years ago.
That's incredible. So these ideas are ancient. The chapter mentions the 4 humors, too. That sounds kind of old-timey medicine. Can you explain that?
Yeah, it does sound a bit abstract, right? But it was a major concept in ancient medicine, especially from Hippocrates and later Galen. They thought the body had 4 basic fluids, or humors: blood, yellow bile, black bile, and phlegm.
Okay.
And each humor was linked to a specific temperament. Too much blood, you were sanguine, cheerful, optimistic; yellow bile, choleric, irritable, ambitious; black bile, melancholic, thoughtful, maybe gloomy; and phlegm, phlegmatic, calm, composed.
Huh. So it was their way of linking body and personality.
Exactly, a holistic view. Now, obviously, the medical side is outdated, but this idea of linking bodily states to personality types, it laid the groundwork for later psychological theories, like the ones Jung developed. It shaped how people thought about personality for centuries.
So it wasn't just some obscure theory. It was out there, influencing culture.
Totally. The chapter even points out that Shakespeare included these ideas in his cosmology. He wove them into his characters, his plays. That shows how widespread these concepts were.
Wow, Shakespeare too. And it's still relevant today.
Absolutely. Its value isn't just historical. The chapter highlights that temperament theory is actually used in Fortune 500 companies for hiring, staff development, and team building.
Seriously, Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah, it's a validated tool in high-stakes environments. Helps understand how people work together, how to build effective teams. That tells you something about its practical power.
That really does ground it. Makes it feel less theoretical and more like a real tool. And the chapter says these temperaments are easy to understand and remember.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this framework. Once you get the basics, you really do start to see them everywhere in the people around you and in yourself. It's like putting on new glasses for understanding people.
Huh, I like that. New glasses.
Although the chapter does add this funny little side note. Apparently, Spontaneous adventurers are put off by the idea of categorizing people.
Of course they are. That fits perfectly.
Right, they don't want labels. But for most of us, this framework is really helpful for understanding ourselves and others better.
Okay, so let's get into those benefits. How does understanding temperament help us personally?
Well, first off, it gives you huge personal insight. The chapter says it helps you define and understand your core values and your personality. It's like a mirror, helping you sort out what's most important to you and why.
So it's about understanding your own motivations.
Exactly, and maybe why you react certain ways in relationships. Like, if you're a citizen type, realizing your need for order isn't just a preference, it's a core value tied to your sense of security. So when a partner disrupts that, it's not just annoying, it feels fundamentally unsettling. That insight helps you understand your own reactions.
Okay, that makes sense. It's not just about knowing your type.
Right. It's about understanding the why behind it, and that's immediately useful for you, the listener.
And it helps with understanding others too, obviously.
Yeah, big time. These snapshots of human personality, as the chapter calls them, help us tune into others more quickly. You start to gain a sense of how they see the world, what makes them happy, and how to work with them more effectively. It builds empathy.
Which brings us right back to finding that best friend partner. The chapter talks about the whole opposites attract thing, right?
It does. It tackles that paradox head on. It acknowledges that, yes, in love, opposites tend to attract. There's the initial excitement, that spark you get from someone different, someone whose strengths maybe balance your weaknesses.
That feeling can be really powerful.
Totally. The chapter calls it heady and intoxicating in the short term. It's thrilling to discover someone with a totally different perspective.
We've all been there, felt that pull. But the chapter warns about the long haul, doesn't it?
It does. And this is crucial. It points out that for the long term, living with someone very different from you can be wearing or even exhausting.
Yeah, that initial excitement can fade.
Right, because your fundamental ways of operating, your core values, how you handle stress, they might just be too different. That citizen needing order versus the free spirit thriving on impulse, that creates real friction day to day.
So it's not impossible, but it takes work.
A lot of work. The chapter says partnering with someone of a different temperament means really committing to the relationship in order to bridge the gaps in how you see things, which, again, circles right back to Robbie and Amber. The energy needed to bridge their gap was just too much. It shows that attraction is one thing, but commitment to understanding and bridging those temperamental divides is what fuels long-term peace.
Okay, so understanding these four temperaments is absolutely essential then. Let's really break them down. But first, the chapter mentions something important about not fitting neatly into one box.
Right, exactly. It clarifies that most people tend to be a combination of two temperaments, or sometimes three. And it even says some highly evolved souls have all the bases covered.
Huh. Highly evolved souls. Okay.
So yeah, it's not about rigid labels. It's more about identifying your dominant tendencies, your primary and maybe secondary styles. It's a spectrum.
Got it. So let's unpack number one, the citizen traditionalist worker. Who are these folks?
These are basically the doers of the world. The chapter really emphasizes their need for order. They're organized, focused, hardworking, punctual. For them, order is the highest value because it provides harmony and stability. They're very aware of how easily order can be lost.
Structure and reliability are key for them.
Absolutely. That's where they find security. And they're very common. The data suggests they make up more than 40% of the U.S. population.
Wow, nearly half.
Yeah, and you see them everywhere, managers, administrators, in government, business, industry, roles that need structure. And get this, more than 85% of leadership in the corporate world reportedly has this temperament.
That makes sense. And gender-wise.
Pretty balanced. About 8% fewer men than women identify this way.
Okay. And the traits list really paints a picture. Organized, factual, dependable, logical, orderly, punctual, reliable. Goes on and on. Practical, realistic, traditional, loyal, responsible, decisive.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back at Robbie, grounded, practical, hardworking, career-focused, needing routine. He sounds like a classic citizen, doesn't he?
Textbook case. His need for a stable environment, his discomfort with Amber's creative lifestyle, it all fits. For a citizen, love often looks like providing stability, being reliable, acts of service. They can struggle with inconsistency because it disrupts that core need for order. They're challenged.
Yeah.
Maybe becoming too rigid.
Okay. Next up, the free spirit adventurer sensualist. Sounds like the total opposite.
Pretty much. A total contrast. These are the people who live in the moment. Spontaneous, adaptable, really attuned to the pleasure of experience. The chapter says they bring life to any party.
The fun ones?
Yeah. Athletes, entertainers, rock stars maybe, but also people who thrive in action, firefighters, paramedics, pilots, entrepreneurs, sales reps. They're described as inventive, pragmatic in a crisis, self-reliant. Their core drive is freedom, immediate experience, avoiding boredom.
And how common are they?
About 1/3 of the population, so still quite a few. And the chapter notes 15% more men identify as free spirit.
Interesting. And their traits: independent, creative, skillful, adaptable, energetic, outgoing, easygoing, adventurous, spontaneous, charismatic, impulsive, fun-loving, playful. This screams Amber, Robbie's ex.
Absolutely. Her spontaneity and love of adventure, her casual approach, the frequent flyers, it's all there. And it highlights that fundamental clash. Her way of feeling alive was totally disruptive to his need for order. For her, it wasn't irresponsibility, it was living fully.
Yeah, you can see how that initial attraction soured. He needed stability, she needed excitement.
Exactly. A free spirit shows love through shared fun, adventure, giving space. They can feel trapped by too much rigidity or planning. Their challenge, maybe follow through or avoiding tough conversations because they prefer to just move past discomfort.
Okay, temperament 3. Strategic thinker, researcher, visionary. Sounds intellectual.
Very much so. For these folks, the world of ideas is the realm. They are analytical, rational, focused, inventive thinkers. Their biggest satisfaction comes from the life of the intellect, understanding complex things, finding patterns. They value logic, competence, knowledge.
And prevalence, roles.
Less common, about 10% of Americans, and found about twice as frequently among men. Think writers, certain entrepreneurs, the idea-driven ones, analysts, engineers, professors, researchers, scientists, people building complex systems or theories.
Makes sense. And their traits:
Analytical, knowledgeable, theoretical, objective, intellectual, competitive, focused, strategic, inventive, competent, complex. Lifestyle-wise, independent, decisive, pragmatic, inquisitive, intelligent, rational, often reserved, truthful, maybe perfectionistic.
reserved. So maybe they struggle with expressing emotion.
Sometimes perceived that way. It's not necessarily lack of feeling, but their primary mode is cognitive. Their quietness might just be deep processing. They often show love through intellectual connection, solving problems, valuing competence in a partner. They might clash with highly emotional approaches, seeking logic, their challenge, appearing detached or struggling to connect emotionally.
Fascinating. Okay, last one. Nurturer, humanist, devotee. Sounds like the compassionate type.
That's a great description. They are the helpers of the world who serve humanity, often drawn to spirituality or religion, focused on others' well-being. They're imaginative, intuitive, idealistic. The chapter highlights that for them, fairness is the highest value.
Fairness. That's a powerful driver.
It really is. It shapes their ethics, their actions. They seek harmony, authenticity. Prevalence is similar to strategic thinkers, a little more than 10% of Americans, and about twice as many women identify as nurturers.
And roles.
You find them as nurses, teachers, psychologists, social workers, ministers, priests, gurus, roles focused on support, healing, connection. The chapter also notes just factually that they tend to be found in greater numbers on the liberal side of the spectrum, likely tied to that core value of fairness and progressive ideals. Again, just an observation reported in the source.
Got it. And traits: humanistic, fair-minded, conscientious, empathic, nurturing, creative, devotional, persuasive, harmonious, lifestyle, compassionate, open, idealistic, altruistic, insightful, imaginative, intuitive, introspective, authentic, verbal. The heart-centered folks.
Exactly. They thrive on connection, understanding, healing. They show love through deep empathy, emotional support, care. They crave soul connection. They can struggle with partners who seem emotionally distant or overly critical because they value authenticity and harmony so much. Their challenge, maybe being overly sensitive, sacrificing their own needs, or avoiding conflict to keep the peace.
Wow, okay. That's a really clear breakdown of the 4 types, and the chapter has that exercise, temperament at a glance.
Yeah, it's great. It basically says, put a check by all the qualities that describe your personality, work style, and lifestyle. Then do the same for your partner, your children, or extended family.
Such a practical way to start applying this to your own life.
Absolutely. It makes it real. But again, remember the caveat the chapter includes: tremendous variability due to genetics. People in the same family can be surprisingly different. So these are tools for understanding, not rigid boxes. You might be a blend, like a nurturer with a strong citizen side who values both compassion and traditional family routines. Recognizing the blend is key.
Right, it's about dominant tendencies. So, bringing this all back home, pun intended, how does understanding all this, as Nancy Fass lays it out, help us cultivate that best friend partnership?
Well, it starts with self-awareness, right? The theory is a tool you use to get greater clarity in your own life, understanding your own needs, values, triggers. But then it's incredibly powerful for understanding others. It helps us better understand the people we care about and how to best interact with them by becoming attuned to their values, biases, and personal goals.
So it shifts things from, why are they doing that annoying thing, to, okay, what underlying need or value is driving that behavior?
Precisely. It depersonalizes conflict. You realize it's often not a personal attack, but a clash of fundamental temperament-driven styles.
So finding a best friend partner isn't about finding your identical twin.
Not at all. It's about finding someone whose temperament complements yours in a way that leads to that peace and rightness Robbie felt. It's about looking past the surface excitement to deeper compatibility and how you both approach the world, what makes you happy, how you solve problems together.
Like your example, the citizen needing a quiet Sunday versus the free spirit wanting a spontaneous hike. Understanding the temperaments turns it from a fight into a negotiation.
Exactly. Okay, hike this morning, quiet time this afternoon, or adventure next weekend, routine this weekend. It opens up communication and creative solutions because you understand the why behind the desire.
And this isn't just for single people looking. This is gold for existing relationships too, right?
Absolutely. Understanding your partner's temperament, it builds empathy, helps you navigate disagreements better. You see their actions through the lens of their core needs, not just as frustrating behavior. That strategic thinker offering logical solutions isn't being cold. That's their way of helping. The nurturer needing emotional validation isn't being needy. It's their core way of connecting.
That understanding can bridge so many gaps.
Huge gaps. And that's why this chapter and the whole book, The 21st Century Man, is so valuable. Nancy Fass gives real, actionable tools, not just fluffy ideas.
Yeah, it feels very practical.
It really is. If you're serious about your relationships, we can't recommend reading the full book, and especially chapter 69 enough. Get the full context, really let it sink in. And you can find more on Nancy Fass at www.healthwritersgroup.com.
Okay, what a fantastic deep dive. We started with Robbie's story, understanding those common relationship struggles and his search for that coming home feeling. Then we traced temperament theory from ancient Greece all the way to Fortune 500 boardrooms.
Quite a journey.
And finally, we really unpacked those four types: citizen, free spirit, strategic thinker, nurturer, and saw how understanding them can guide us towards finding or building that true best friend partnership.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff. And as you, the listener, think about all this, here's something to chew on. What really stood out to you about your own temperament, or maybe the temperaments of people close to you?
Good question.
How might recognizing these differences change how you approach relationships? Moving beyond just chasing excitement towards seeking real, harmonious compatibility. And maybe the biggest question, how can knowing your own temperament help you really define what you need in that partner who gives you that incredible, peaceful sense of finally being home?
Wow. Definitely some powerful questions to reflect on. We really hope this exploration of Chapter 69 has sparked some insights for you, giving you maybe some new ways to look at your connections.
Yeah, hope it was helpful.
And to really dive deeper, seriously, check out The 21st Century Man. Read the chapter, explore the ideas, and be sure to join us next time when we tackle Chapter 70, how counseling can help build a lasting relationship.
Looking forward to that one.
Us too. We'll see you then.
Take control of your health anytime, anywhere. Visit globalmenswellness.com and start your free trial today. Get expert-level answers in seconds, not weeks, without the cost, the wait, or the awkward conversations. Real support on your terms. Visit globalmenswellness.com now.